Want to learn how to edit your fall photos? Stick around to find out how. Hey guys, what's going on? Myles here with an all new photography video. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I edit my fall photos in Adobe Lightroom. I'm going to be sharing with you just how I get the colors to pop and how I really get that autumn vibe going. Now, if you like these videos, make sure to smash that subscribe button down below and also click that notification bell so you never miss another one of my videos. Now also, this is going to be a 3-part series, so if you like the first video, make sure to keep an eye out as I will have 2 more videos coming out in the next few weeks. Alrighty guys, enough of that. Let's dive in and check out this video. Alrighty guys, so starting off, as you can see, we have this awesome photo pulled up. Now, I shot this recently on a trip up to Munising, Michigan. If you're unfamiliar where that is, it's home of the pictured rocks. Really cool rock formations carved out by Lake Superior. Highly recommend checking it out. It was a great little vacation. So as you can see, this is a pretty cool fall photo because not only do we have the nice cool leaves, but we also have the lake in the background. Now let's get started. So the first thing I always do is I come down here and I enable profile correction. I do this for every photo. This pretty much just fixes the lens that you're using, smooths out the photo. So as you can see, I was using the Canon 24-105, kind of just smoothed it out, made it look nice and pretty. So once I do that, I come back up to the top. Now the first thing I always do is I like to shoot my landscapes a little overexposed. So I know if we look at the histogram, you can see that we're way all the way to the right. So let's pull that back, and I'm gonna drop this about there. So about -40 looks good. The other thing I like to do is, because we're trying to get the warmth for fall, I'm gonna actually increase my temperature. Now I had this set for outdoor landscapes. I kind of have like a setting I use, but it wasn't as warm as I was hoping. So I'll increase it to something right around there. I upped it about 500. Again, this is all feel, but you want to create that warmth to the image, especially when you do fall photos. So increasing the temperature will really help that. The other thing I'm going to do here is just increase the contrast just a hair. It doesn't need it a bunch. Now as you can see, we do have the blacks a little underexposed here. Don't worry about that right now because you'll see in a moment that will go away. So next we're going to come down to the highlight, shadows, whites, and blacks. As always, I'm going to drop my highlights. Now this is just preference. Again, I like to shoot overexposed, so sometimes the highlights can be really blown out. So by dropping them down, I kind of adjust for that. Now, as far as my shadows go, I'm going to bring these up, and that is kind of just to bring back detail in the leaves. If I didn't do that, they'd be a little dark and wouldn't really pop as much. And as you can see too, by doing that, that also got rid of the blacks being underexposed. So we fixed that. So the next thing I'm going to do is increase my whites. This will just bring some brightness back to the image, and we're going to drop the blacks. And again, these settings will all change a little bit depending on your image. It's all preference. It's all done by the feel. But this is what I like to do. This is my go-to. Something like this. It'll change the image to image, but for the most part, this is what I will start off doing. Now, I'm in a pretty good situation. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking already. If we do the before and after, you can see that the photo has already changed a ton. Do it again there. So next we're going to come down here to the clarity, and I like to increase my clarity just a little. Now you don't want to go crazy because like if you really bump it, as you can see here, you can start to make the photo look non-realistic. So about 20 is where I want to be. It looks good. That also helps with the rocks. I want to preserve this, right? All the detail on the rock. As you can see, that's the whole reason I was up there in the first place, was to get all that. So I want to make sure that stays in the photo. The other thing I'm going to do is increase a little bit for the dehaze. And that's looking pretty good. So the next step is we're going to come down to the vibrance and saturation. Now I'm not going to be touching the saturation because there's already quite a bit in this photo, but I am going to increase the vibrance, and this is going to really bring out the oranges and yellows in the photo. Also kind of brought out the greens, what I'll work to get rid of later. But I'm pretty happy with this right now. This is where I'd like to start. So next we're going to come down to the tone curve. Now I like to put 3 dots right away, and I'll get going. So as you can see, we got a nice little spike here on the histogram, so we're going to pull it down. And this is just to kind of take the edge off the white, so the whites are going to be a little bit more gray. The other thing I'm going to do is drop down right here, and you can see as I'm dropping this down, on the histogram we're moving more to the center, and that's where you want to kind of be. You don't really want to be too far to the right or too far to the left on the histogram, so by dropping that down we're able to center it a little bit, so something right about there. Now the mids, you can see you can play with it a little bit. Now I'm actually going to increase them a little bit, and that is because I want this color and the leaves to pop. So by bringing that up a little bit, you bring back some of that color, and we're going to do the same thing with the shadows. And then I'm going to actually bring this up quite a bit. So I might add another point here. So I'll probably do 2 points, one there. Again, this is all feel and based on what you like and don't like. So I'll do something like this. And then I do that just a little bit to give it a little bit of a fade, just so it's not as harsh. So again, this is all preference. This is just what I like to do. That fades a little too crazy, so let's bring it back down here. Something like that. Again, I might come back in a little bit and play with it some more depending on how the rest of the adjustments go, but this is a pretty good starting point. So next we're going to come down to the HSL area. Now this stands for hue, saturation, luminance. We're going to come over here to the hue tab and get going. Now I'm going to be kind of careful here because you can also really make your image look non-realistic by adjusting these too much. So we're going to come up here to the reds, and we're going to aim it more towards the oranges. Again, I'm trying to get the orange and the yellows to pop in this photo. For the oranges, we're going to pull it more towards the reds, kind of right in there. Yellows, same thing, we're going to go more towards the orange, and as you can see, this is also adjusting kind of that green layer there. So by coming this way with it, somewhere like right in there, we're really starting to add orange into the photo, right? You're getting rid of some of this green in here. When I shot this photo, it wasn't peak season just yet, so by adjusting the sliders you can kind of make it look more like peak season. Now I also have to be careful because I have the beach and the rocks that also have kind of an orange tint to them, so I want to make sure that I don't go too crazy because I could start to make those look non-realistic. Next we'll come to the greens, and I'm going to shift the greens pretty much quite a ways here. We're going to go way over here to heading towards more of the yellows. And then we got aquas and blues. Now, I like to slide these every once in a while, right? And a good tip is if you double click on the name of the color, it'll set it back to 0. So I like to come in here, and this is just, I play with it to see what colors are changing. Now I'm going to increase the blues a little bit, and I'll have something like this. I'm pretty happy with it. So next we'll move on to the saturation. Now I'm going to increase a little bit on the oranges and the yellows. The yellows are going to get increased, and this is just going to help make it pop. Again, you don't want to go too crazy. Something like that. Reds can probably stay put. I'm not seeing a whole lot there. Same with the greens. Again, I like to just slide them to see what's really changing in the image. Blues will increase a little bit just to add a little bit of detail to the sky. And aquas, we're gonna probably leave it set to 0. Now I know there's no purple or magenta in this image, so we're just gonna leave those set to 0 as well. So next we're gonna come to the luminance, and we're gonna increase this as well. This is to make those leaves pop, like I've been saying. Something like this. Again, it's all feel, so I'm just watching the leaves as I'm sliding. I'm not really paying attention to the slider. I'm watching the image itself, and that's what you want to do. Another tip too is you can actually slide this slider out, or this panel wider, and it gives you a little bit more leeway when you're sliding. So just a tip, I like to slide it all the way open. It makes it a lot easier to get more precise. So like I said, I'll come in here, and that looks about right. Darken those a little bit. I want them to still look orange, not as yellow, so something like that. And there you go. So if I do the before and after, you can see how much more the rock formation and the leaves are really starting to pop from there to there. So I'm pretty happy with that. Let's see blues here. I'm gonna darken it just a hair, and that's just gonna darken the sky. And I'll probably do the same with like the aquas here, just a bit. I don't want to go crazy. And greens, let's see. Yeah, greens can be dark as well. So there we have it. So I'm pretty happy with that. So next I'm going to come down here to split toning. Now I'm not a huge fan of this panel, but I will add just a bit of saturation, just a hair to the highlights. And this is just to kind of give it that more warmth to the image, especially to the highlights. Something like that. I'll play in here. Don't want to go crazy. Again, I'm watching the image, and I'm happy with that. So let's keep moving on. Next we'll come down to sharpening. Now I have settings I use. So I use for the amount 50, for the detail 50, and for the radius 1.3. This works good for my camera, so depending on your style, your camera, and everything, this could change. I know based on what I shoot, my settings and everything, that's kind of my go-to setting there. But don't, go in there and make sure you play around with it a little bit, see what it does exactly. And the same thing for noise reduction, right? I know I can put 30 for the luminance and 30 for the contrast and leave the detail at 50. Again, it's my go-to setting for most of my photos. I know that looks good. I know it works with my camera equipment. Again, you want to get in there and play around though and see what works for you. So once I do that, I'll usually come down here. Now you can add a vignette. Sometimes I will. In this case, I'm not going to, and you'll see why in a second. You also can add some grain to the image. Now I'm not going to. And then also I have the calibration. Sometimes I'll play around in here, not all the time. You can start to make the image look a little bit more warmth. Adjust for like the greens and stuff. As you can see by sliding this, it's playing around with the leaf color a little bit. I like to leave it most of the time at 0 though. I don't like to come in here a whole lot. So we're gonna leave it like that. So this is where I'm at right now. Now I'm gonna come back up to my tone curve because I'm not exactly happy with the colors here. So I'll come in and I'll play around just a little bit more. And something like this. I really want this section to pop in my image, right? That's my focal point. So that's where I want the eye to focus on. So by making it a little brighter, your eye is drawn more to that area. And I want specifically Chapel Rock. That's what this rock formation is called. I kind of want that to be the focal point of the image. So by increasing the colors around it as well as Chapel Rock itself, it helps to draw in the eye, and that's what I'm looking for in this image. So I'm pretty happy with this. So next thing I'm going to do is, as you can see, the sky is kind of, it's really bright, and I kind of want to tone it down just a bit and focus the eye more towards Chapel Rock. So I'm going to add a little filter, gradient filter here. And what I'm going to do, as you can see, I'm going to draw it out like this. And I'm going to kind of come in here something like this, and I'm gonna drop this exposure. So what I'm doing is I'm darkening this corner and helping, kind of like a vignette, help draw the focus more towards Chapel Rock. So I'm gonna add, that was a little over exaggerated there. I'll do probably about -20-ish, somewhere in there, something like that. And that will help draw the viewer's eye. Like that. And boom. If we do the before and now the after, that's pretty good, guys. I mean, I would still probably do another once over, and what I mean by that is once I've done all this, right, I'm pretty much at a stopping point. I'm happy with the image. This is pretty much where it's going to be. Now what I'll do is I'll go through once more and I'll adjust these settings a little bit more, right? So maybe I'll add a bit of more warmth to the image, maybe I'll take some away, maybe I'll play with the sliders a little bit more. But this is kind of where I would stop at this point, and then I'll do the once over, and that's it. That's how I edit. I don't go back 100 times. I don't go, you know, to other photos and come back. I pretty much do this. I'm happy with an image, and then I move forward. As you can see, it was a pretty quick edit here. It only took about 15 minutes. I'm happy with how it looks. This would be something that I could print. If I wanted, I could come in and crop it as well. I could get different focal points here. I mean, you got Chapel Rock as kind of the focus, so you could come in here, you know, and kind of bring in the slider if I wanted, something like that. Add a nice little crop to it. That's a possibility. But it really depends on you and your style. But this is how I would edit this style of a photo. And as you can see, by adding the orange to this image and upping the temperature and everything, you really made it pop from kind of a dull photo to a very fall vibed photo. Alrighty guys, so there you have it. There is the first fall photo in the 3-piece series. Now remember, if you like these videos and you want to see more, smash that subscribe button down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Alrighty guys, peace!